I'm gonna tell you what we can do, and answering a question we just had, what really means healthy bonding and which is the limit that makes our bonding not really healthy or not that healthy. So I'm gonna give you some tips about how to raise children in general. These are very general tips. So first of all, we need to give them some quality time. And I know most of you have a lot of things to do, most of you have works, have jobs, and that's okay. You don't need to give your child or your children a lot of time. You just need to give them quality time, which means really being there for them, really being observing their needs, really caring for their needs and what they really need, as we were talking about. So, for example, I'm going to give a general example that pops up to my mind right now. The child says, "Hey, mommy, can we see a movie?" And mom says, "Yeah, sure, baby. What do you want to see? What do you want to watch?" "Oh, I want to watch The Lion King." "Okay, let's watch The Lion King." So they're both watching The Lion King, and the child says, Mommy, did you see that?" "Mommy? Mom? What? Mommy, did you see that?" "Oh yeah, baby." She was not paying attention clearly. And that's what I mean when I say you really need to give them quality time. Because it's not just being there. It's being really there. Like observing, like watching, like caring for what they care. Because that Lion King movie is a lot to them. And they really need to feel you connected with that moment, with that time. Okay, so moving on. Emotional regulation. How do we help our children regulate their emotions? And what we really need to understand, or we first need to understand, is that they don't know a thing about emotions. And they just really feel them. And they may not know what is happening in that moment. So, first of all, we need to show them and to teach them what are emotions. What do we feel in our body when we're having an emotion? And this is a very simple wheel of emotions for children. And we can show them, and not only show them, but teach them about it, when we link these wheel of emotions to experiences. So, hey baby, remember when we were having this trip to, I don't know, Colan maybe? Do you all know Colan in Europe? Yeah, okay. I hope so. So, remember when we were having this trip to Colan and you got upset because we were not going to do the sandboarding. I think they do sandboarding there. Okay. But remember we then had this chance to go to the beach and see this wonderful scenario where we could, okay, remember that? So you were not only glad, not only pleased, but maybe joyful because you were running all over the place and you were screaming out loud and having a really, really good time. So we can show them what emotions are, and what we feel is not only important, but we cannot question what we feel. I cannot tell you, are you sure you're feeling sad? Are you sure you're feeling anxious? It's just what we feel. Why we feel it is another topic. But what we feel cannot be questioned. And that's why they really need to learn what they are feeling. And we need to show them these, well, this is a strategy, but we need to show them these emotions because they need to know how to name them in order for them not to act them, but to talk about the emotions. So that's how we teach children to regulate themselves, not only their emotions, but also their behavior. this is a wheel of emotions for parents, which is, as you can see, more complex. And you're gonna have it in the presentation. Miss Fisher's gonna give you, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna move on. And this is very important. We tend to think that we just need to give children what they need. And that's true, but that's half true. Because we also need to give them some things they don't want, which is not the same as not needing them. And what do they need? They need rules. And they need rules to be very, very clear. Very clear means, okay, I'm gonna put the opposite example. A rule cannot be you need to behave, because behaving is a very complex concept. And behaving means a lot of things. Behaving means you need to sit straight. Behaving means you need to speak in a normal tone of voice. Behaving means you cannot shout out whenever you want. Behaving means a lot of things. So there are rules that we need to say very clearly, and also for them, we need them to be precise. As for example, we're showing them how to behave in math. I don't know if everybody goes to math, but we show them how to behave in math, and we need to tell them exactly what they need to do. So you're gonna sit down here, you're gonna listen, and then you're gonna stand up when everybody stands up, and so on, okay? And they also need consequences. They need consequences of their actions, of their behavior. And these consequences need to be direct. That means you did this, this is the consequence. They need to be proportionate. That means, okay, for older children or maybe adolescents, okay, so you didn't do a homework, now you have no cell phone for a year. That's a lot, and that's not gonna be a lesson. So they need to be proportionate to what they did. And finally, especially when our children are little, like until they are 8 or 9, they need to be really, really tied up with the moment they behave or misbehave. If we do give them consequences that are far in time, they're not gonna link them with their behavior, and therefore they are not gonna learn. Okay? So, let's move on to some things we can do. I always tell parents, I know you need to fight, but you need to, first of all, have some fair fighting rules, and second, try to hide from children when you fight. So, I'm gonna give you some fair fighting rules, not only for you and your spouses, is that okay? Yeah? But also with that you can apply them with your children. So, before you start fighting or before you start an argument, you need to think, why are you feeling upset? Why are you feeling anxious? Why are you feeling angry? So, is it because your partner didn't put away the mustard? Or are you really upset because you feel that you do most homework and this is more evidence for your theory? So we really need to clear up what is bothering us, what is making us upset. That's the first thing. Second thing, we need to speak one problem at a time. We need to talk about one problem at a time, because sometimes you shouldn't shop that much without asking me can turn into you don't really care about our family. And that's usually what happens when we don't take one topic at a time, and we end up having two problems instead of one. Okay, so it's better if we try to go through topics one at a time. Please do not use language that insults the other person, not only your partners, but also your children. Because that really hurts feelings, and that really, really makes them interpret that you don't care about them, that you don't really love them, that you don't really need their presence, their company, and there can be a lot of interpretations about insulting language, so please try to keep it clean. Okay, try to express your feelings with the appropriate words, and that's why I put before the emotional wheel, so that you can really say what you're feeling and explain why. Also, you need to take responsibility for that feeling, because we tend to say like, hey, you made me feel this, and that's not the case. The case is, I feel like that because of this, because of what you've done, because of what happened, or so on. Okay? So, I'm gonna make this little activity for you to participate in and do this exercise of taking responsibility for our feelings. This is gonna be our rule. So, I feel, we're gonna use an emotional word, when, and we're going to give an explanation. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay. This is an example. So this is how we blame the other person. You can't keep coming home so late. It's so inconsiderate. What we can do to take responsibility for that feeling is, I feel worried when you come home late. I can't even sleep. See the difference? See how in the second part I'm saying what I feel and why I feel it, so I'm taking responsibility for that feeling and not blaming the other person for my feelings? Okay, so now, another example. You never call me. I guess we just won't talk anymore. We turn it into a nice statement and say, I feel hurt when you go so long without calling. I'm afraid you don't care. So we're taking responsibility not only for what we feel, but also for what we think. Now, it's your turn. So, this is the scenario. A friend always cancels plans at the last minute. Recently, you were waiting for them at a restaurant when they called to say they couldn't make it. Who wants to say the I statement?
I feel uncomfortable when I'm waiting for a long time. I don't hear out.
Okay, great. Another I statement? There can be a lot of them. There's no right one. No? Nobody? Finger pressing?
I feel disappointed when I'm waiting for you and I don't get the chance to see you.
Okay, that's a great one. Somebody else? The last one?
I like disappointed better. But I feel worried when I don't hear from you and make these plans. I hope that.
Okay, great examples. So, we're gonna move on to another scenario. You are working on a group project and one member is not completing their portion. You have repeatedly had to finish their work. This has happened to most of us, right? Okay, who wants to give an example? Okay, please. Okay, you said you felt frustrated.
Yeah. I feel frustrated when you don't complete or contribute to our group's project. Your contribution can be very valuable with different people.
Okay, great. Another example?
There are cultural differences because Latin Americans we learn to use the ice cream. We may say, I feel upset when you expect me to do your work.
Not direct.
And I believe that we should learn from you guys because, you know, I feel it's more polite, you can add more value, it's more positive, but that's something that we have to learn.
Yeah. Passion.
Yes, we are more emotional, and we tend to put a lot of emotion in what we say. So that's a great contribution because we need to learn to be more assertive. And assertive means saying what we want to say, but without just hurting the other person. Okay? So, last scenario. Your boss keeps dumping new work on you with little instruction and not enough time. Despite working overtime, you're weeks behind. So what can we say to our boss? That's a difficult one. We need to be more polite there, right?
I'm feeling overwhelmed
Okay.
because I'm worried I don't have enough time to get it done.
Great.
That's what,
Feeling overwhelmed?
that's what I do say. Yeah.
That's a real example.
That's a real example.
Okay. Somebody else? No? Okay. So let's move on to the next rule. Please take turns. It's not easy when we have to argue with somebody that's cutting our explanation or what we're saying, and it's like, but I was, no you weren't, but I went, no you weren't. So it's very difficult. You better take turns. I know it's difficult too, but it's better for the argument not to get really big and stay in what it should stay. It's just an argument. We are upset maybe, we're angry maybe, but we do not need to do a big deal of a problem. Okay? Please try not to love yourselves. That means try to listen to the other person. It's usually the lock tactic is I just run away. I just don't want to hear you anymore. I just don't want to keep listening, so I just run away. And that's okay if you really need a break from the argument, but it's better if you put it on schedule, let's say that, and say, okay, I need a break from this, so can we please talk about this later, maybe at night, maybe before bed. Well, try not to do that before bed. Yeah. Maybe another time, maybe tomorrow at breakfast, maybe tomorrow, maybe the weekend. So just schedule when you're gonna start talking about this topic again, okay? But do not just run away. Another one, don't yell. It's not really helpful, and we usually tend to think that the one that yells the most is the winner, and it's not. We are just teaching our children that yelling is how we solve problems. And they are going to listen, even though you go to Starbucks or something. They will notice that you are upset and that you have yelled because you're going to come home with a louder voice. Believe me. Yeah. Take a time out when it's too much. That's what I said, what I was saying before. I know sometimes arguments can be difficult and can be overwhelming and can be really, really stressing. So you can take a time off and say, okay, let's discuss this later. We are too emotionally involved. We are too upset, too angry. So let's just take this and schedule it another time. Okay? Finally, try to settle. It's not that easy, I know, but try to have some middle point where you can settle, and maybe it's not always the middle point, but it's give and take, right? So, okay, this time I'll say it's okay and let my partner have the decision, and maybe next time my partner will let me have the decision, and so on. That's if you don't get to a middle point. If you get to a middle point, that's even better. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much, and I don't know if you have any questions.
They do, but you'll send me the presentation. Right?
Sure, I'll send you the presentation.
Lo que comentó, creo justo la señora que se fue, el tema del apego, que el doctor Fernández dijo que lo iban a explicar después, hasta dónde es un apego bueno, sano, y dónde ya es la línea de no bueno, ¿no?
What was that question? Was that about attachment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ya, bien difícil tu pregunta. A ver, en realidad lo que tenemos que entender es que el apego es un continuo, ¿no? Es un arcoíris de posibilidades. ¿Estamos de acuerdo? Entonces, voy a contestar tu pregunta de manera muy práctica. ¿Ya? El apego, el vínculo adecuado, está en relación a dos cosas. Uno, que es a veces complicado, que tú puedas alejarte un poco de tus sentimientos y expectativas con respecto a tu hijo y lo puedas ver como un ser humano, no como un ser humano pequeño, como un ser humano, con sus propios proyectos, sus propias expectativas y sus propias necesidades. Que tú puedas jerarquizar esas necesidades e irlas absorbiendo. Ese es el apego bueno. ¿Estamos de acuerdo? El apego inadecuado es aquel en que el adulto está distanciado del niño, sea por la razón que fuere, pero sobre todo un alejamiento emocional. ¿Estamos? Y ese alejamiento usualmente se da en negligencia cuando uno está pensando en lo que uno quisiera que su hijo fuera en relación a las necesidades de uno. Y entonces nunca va a poder ver a su hijo como un ser humano, porque siempre va a estar distorsionado por lo que yo quisiera que él fuera e hiciera. Si podemos contrarrestar ese proceso, te aseguro que todas las otras condiciones, el tiempo, la forma, todo pasa a segundo plano. ¿Se entendió?
Sí, pero eso digamos como que es más lógico de 2 años. Mi hijo tiene 1 año 4 meses. No lo puedo ver como una persona, lo veo como un bebito, ¿no es cierto?
Es una persona.
Claro, pero es un bebito, o sea, no tiene expectativas, digamos, todo lo...
Qué bueno.
¿Pero de qué? De jugar y comer y cambiar el pañal.
No, perdóname. Mi sorpresa no está en relación
No,
a un
está
juicio.
bien, no, perfecto.
Perdóname. Yo voy a invitarnos a algo. La comprometo a Jennifer. Podemos hacer si ustedes se animan, podemos hacer otra presentación donde hablemos del desarrollo afectivo y cognitivo del niño desde la vida intrauterina, porque sí tiene necesidades, y sí tiene expectativas, y sí tiene capacidad de aprendizaje, absolutamente. Lo que pasa es que uno cree que el niño no se da cuenta, pues esa es la clásica, ¿no? No, lo que pasa es que no se da cuenta, entonces uno, padre y madre pueden discutir con el hijo de 1 año ahí pensando en que no se va a dar cuenta, ni va a captar, ni tiene posibilidad de entender. Eso no es verdad. Y no es poesía, por favor, no creas que que escuche música. No, yo les puedo traer como lo que hemos hecho ahora, una secuencia lógica de ese desarrollo y por qué se piensa que es importante una intervención diferenciada a cada edad. Se puede hacer. ¿Ya? Antes de que les traduzca, les voy a comentar algo, ¿no? Les cuento, les voy a decir esto solamente por ponerlos en contexto. Yo soy de formación, o sea, yo soy médico, hice una maestría primero en funcionamiento cerebral. Yo me dediqué a investigar eso, por circunstancias de la vida hice la especialidad de psiquiatra, ¿no? Y tengo 2 maestrías más. Y no se han preguntado por qué no sé inglés, porque tengo un déficit de atención severo. Quienes tienen niños con déficit de atención deben saber que sus problemas mayores están en el inglés y en science, y algunos en matemáticas. Son los 3 cursos donde más dificultades se tiene, y usualmente se ve entre los 9 y los 11 años, no se ve antes. Este es un error muy frecuente en quienes no conocen el déficit de atención. ¿Ya? Y solamente para decirles, el problema mayor del déficit de atención no es el rendimiento cognitivo, es cómo el niño va forjando su personalidad a través de la frustración de su aprendizaje. Por eso que el déficit de atención debe ser tratado con un objetivo diferente al rendimiento escolar. Ya me entendí. Esa otra característica del déficit de atención que pasa de un tema a otro, pues. Pero
tiene que ver, sí, no, es que dijo dos puntos que están relacionados al vínculo.
Ya.
El vínculo adecuado de apego está relacionado a dos puntos, que puedas ver a tus hijos como un ser humano y puedas entender sus necesidades.
Y el segundo es que tú puedas apartar tus propias expectativas, ¿no? No que renuncies a ellas, ¿ah? Por favor, ¿no? Caracho, o sea, yo tengo también un poco que modular hacia dónde va mi hijo, ¿no? Pero que tú puedas apartar tus propias expectativas y tu propio proyecto con respecto a tu hijo, ¿cierto? Para poder ver claramente qué es lo que necesita. ¿Ya? Nosotros le vemos en la consulta todos los días. ¿Qué pasa con su hijo? No, pues doctor, es que está en la universidad y se quiere cambiar de carrera y él eligió medicina. ¿A él eligió medicina? Sí, doctor. ¿Y por qué eligió? Porque yo soy médico. Y entonces uno habla con el muchacho y siempre le gustó el arte. Hace que se cambie de medicina a arte. Y ustedes comienzan a ir para atrás. El niño no me lo traen por eso, me lo traen por depresión. Entonces comienzan a ir hacia atrás y siempre ha sido lo mismo. Tienes que. Nunca. ¿Qué te parece? ¿Qué preferirías? ¿Cuál es tu expectativa? Nunca. Es tienes que. Ese es el gran problema, ¿no? Entonces tener esa libertad, se los digo, no que yo sea pues el mejor modelo para lo que les estoy diciendo. En casa de verlo cuchillo de pan, ¿no? Pero eso es lo que sucede. Y si ustedes se paran un momentito a pensar, van a ver que es lo cotidiano. Es lo cotidiano. Es difícil.
Sorry.
That's a memory training for me. Okay, so Dr. Fernandez was first answering a question about what we were talking about, this line, this very blurry line between healthy attachment or bonding and not healthy or not at all healthy attachment and bonding. And it really needs two things to be a healthy attachment. One is to see your children as human beings, not little human beings, not half human beings, but human beings who have needs and expectations. That's the first thing. And the second one is that you need to take some distance from your own expectations to clearly see what your child needs. And obviously that's the difficult part, because we all want our children to be great, but we also need to pay attention to what they really need. And that's how healthy bonding and healthy attachment are grown. Dr. Fernandez was saying that even we could make a presentation about how kids develop since they are in uterus, so that you can understand how they really, even in uterus, have their own needs and expectations, and that we sometimes think, okay, he's little or she's little, she's not gonna understand, she's not gonna need anything else, he just needs to be fed and to be changed and to sleep, no? But they do have some more expectations. They do see the world differently. So that's what we could explain later in another presentation. And I hope I'm not skipping anything. Yeah, I hope so.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
You have our contact information here, so you can write an email to us. Oh, we also have a Facebook and a web page. So the web page is just www.neurocienciasaplicadas.org. And our Facebook, you can find us as Instituto de Neurociencias Aplicadas Inc. We in Facebook we usually put some videos so that you can have knowledge about specific topics. Like for example, the last one we put was about TMS. It's transcranial magnetic stimulation. That's a form of intervention that's FDA approved for depression, for resistant depression, and for some other disorders. And we also have put some videos about suicide, about what is the obsessive compulsive disorder, some other videos that you can see. They're very little because it's just general information.
What's the name?
Here, Instituto de Neurociencias
Ustedes ponen
Aplicadas.
Instituto de Neurociencias Aplicadas en Google y lo primero que hacen es el Facebook. Es un Facebook totalmente informativo, con información muy ágil. Son grabaciones de 1 minuto y medio, 2 minutos máximo. Sale una manito dibujando y la voz de uno de nosotros explicando sobre los errores comunes por falta de información que tenemos nosotros en salud mental. Por ejemplo, hay uno extraordinario que les recomiendo que se llama Los 7 errores más comunes de quienes no conocen la depresión. Entonces están esas frases que usamos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, no te puedes deprimir porque tienes todo. Y ahí se explica por qué esa frase es inadecuada. O por ejemplo, esta que es típica. Yo estuve deprimido y salí solo. Y entonces ahí hacemos la diferencia entre tristeza y depresión, que son cosas totalmente diferentes, ¿no? O por ejemplo, lo que pasa es que no pones de tu parte, ¿no? Entonces hay las 7 frases más comunes de quienes no conocen el proceso, nunca han pasado por ese proceso, y está sustentado porque es una frase inadecuada y por qué no se puede transitar por esos procesos. Todas las grabaciones son así chiquitas, 1 minuto, les va a encantar déficit de atención,
¿Y dan charlas?
el adulto de niño.
¿Dan charlas en el instituto? ¿Como la que usted ha hecho ahora, dan charlas en el instituto?
No. Generalmente acudimos a estas, pero estamos, en el curso. Les va a interesar, perdón. Entren al Facebook porque el 10 y el 11 de mayo, sí, pues este mes, estamos haciendo un curso justamente sobre apego. Se llama Neurobiología de la Felicidad y está dedicado a profesionales y a público en general. Y ahí van a toda esta pregunta que me han hecho. Está cómo el afecto se ha desarrollado a través de las especies, cómo se ha desarrollado en el ser humano, cuáles son las dificultades del apego inseguro. Y el sábado en la mañana hacemos un taller de reconstrucción del apego con todos los asistentes. Es un curso bien bonito. Entren al Facebook y ahí van a encontrar el anuncio del curso. Están cordialmente invitados. Les va a encantar porque, bueno, ahí estamos nuevamente nosotros. Hay otros psicólogos y otros psiquiatras, ¿no? Pero es un curso bien específico sobre apego.
Tanto va a dar la charla, ¿no? La siguiente va a dar, ¿no? Usted va a dar otro taller, ¿no?
Eso depende de ella. Ella es la que lo da. Si ella no me invita, no venimos.
We'll coordinate. I'll talk to Dr. Urena. But I will tell you, one of the reasons I had them come, and just for your own information, is I know the PTA brings in outside people that Barbara and I don't necessarily always approve of, because Dr. Urena and Dr. Fernandez are actually aligned with what we say as a school. So when he was talking to you about the kinds of consequences to have at home, that they have to be appropriate, that they have to be direct, that your rules have to be clear and explicit, that's the same message your kids get at school from the counselor, from the principal, from the teachers. Sometimes we get outside guests who have a different message than what we're saying. So then the kids are confused because they're hearing different things because mom went to a workshop from somebody who's not aligned with us. So when I work with Dr. Fernandez and Dr. Urena, we're saying the same thing about kids. So it is worth it if you, I know that they have workshops and talks and things like that, go, because what they're talking about in terms of attachment and how to discipline your children, how to spend quality time with your children, that's what we believe as an elementary school. So you want those two messages to be aligned. Okay? And we'll coordinate. I know they want one on attachment, right? Is that what they, okay. We'll coordinate. I'm in the middle of placement. Give me like 2 weeks and we'll talk. Okay.
Por si acaso, solamente, bueno, perdónenme, todos saben en castellano.
No.
Solo él.
No, you're fine.
Pero ella
No.
El Instituto de Neurociencias Aplicadas es un instituto en donde nosotros somos instituto de segunda opinión para trastornos de nuestra área, ansiedad, depresión, trastorno por déficit de atención. Segunda opinión significa que nosotros tenemos los instrumentos para que el familiar pueda tangibilizar el diagnóstico. Que el diagnóstico no dependa de la fe que le tengo al psiquiatra, sino que el familiar diga, han hecho su poesía, acá está. Entonces nosotros por eso somos de segunda opinión y hacemos mucho diagnóstico diferencial del déficit de atención, porque los 5 diagnósticos diferenciales del déficit de atención todos son del área de la psiquiatría. Entonces nosotros hacemos esas diferenciaciones y a eso nos hemos dedicado mucho tiempo. Les digo justamente por la problemática que yo pasé. Yo hice la historia natural del déficit de atención. Natural.
Well, Dr. Fernandez is saying that INA, the institute we are working on, this institute has the assessment tools that can make you really see what the problem is. And we usually get some second opinion cases, which means that they have gone to another health professional before and, well, they had to put their faith on them because they didn't have a proof of what this professional was saying. So we have the tools and we usually do differential diagnosis, which means, okay, this case seems to be this, but we need to really discard it's not these other things. So that's what we really do in INA, and that's what we talk about usually in workshops and talks.
Gracias.
Thank
Muchas
you.
gracias.